Again, officially welcome to the virtual information session for the Cinema and Television Directing MFA program at Columbia College Chicago. I'm one of your presenters, one of two Davids. I'm David Martz. I'm the Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions. I'm your primary point of contact for admissions, specifically for the directing program. Joining me is the other David. David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm David Tarleton. I am a professor and I'm the director of the graduate program in cinema and television arts.
And then before we jump right into the directing information, which is going to be the bulk of the presentation, I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about Chicago, a little bit about the school, and a little bit about where we're located in Chicago, for those of you who might not be familiar with either Chicago or Columbia College Chicago as an institution. So starting with Chicago, Chicago is the third largest city in the United States, located in the state of Illinois, with nearly 3 million residents within the city limits. Obviously, that number is greater when you extend it out to the Chicagoland area, which is what we call the suburbs. And Chicago is an affordable cultural hub with a welcoming artist community. Chicago is home to many creative industries within visual arts, dance, film and television, theater, music, you name it. And we have plenty of theaters, galleries, festivals, dance companies, music venues, film and television production centers, and arts organizations to go along with those industries. There's no shortage of art to see and artistic opportunities to explore in Chicago, and Columbia will help you build your professional network and initiate your strategy for creating and nurturing professional relationships, audiences, and supporters. That's just a quick overview of Chicago. About Columbia College Chicago, we are an arts and media school located in the city of Chicago. Our mission is to educate students who will communicate creatively and author the culture of their time. That's sort of our top-down mission statement. Nearly 50% of all of our student population identifies as a person of color. We're a very diverse institution. Columbia is committed to being an anti-racist institution, and we very much believe that the more diverse, the more representative we have of faces and bodies and experiences in all of our programs, it's just going to lead to greater creativity and greater entrepreneurship and ingenuity within the industries. Again, we're located in the heart of downtown Chicago in the Cultural Mile, more specifically the South Loop, which I'll talk about more in the next slide. And Chicago has about 7,000 students each year who are on campus. Most of those are undergraduate students. In fact, the majority of those are undergraduate students. The graduate student population is anywhere from 200 to 250 students each year. That's across all of the graduate programs that we offer. And then a little bit more drilled down as to where we're located in the city. We are a condensed urban campus located in the South Loop neighborhood of downtown Chicago. This map sort of points this out. This is beautiful Lake Michigan Avenue over here. This green area is Grant Park. This is where things like the start and stop of the marathon take place, where many a festival, including like the Taste of Chicago and Blues Fest, these things happen in Grant Park. And it's also to where Lollapalooza, the giant music event, takes place each year in Grant Park. Our campus is right next to Grant Park. All of these red orange circles represent the 20+ administrative, residential, and academic buildings that we have on campus. And our campus stretch about about 2 to 3 blocks east and west, and about 1 mile north and south. So it's a pretty condensed rectangular campus right in the heart of the South Loop. We are conveniently located to major public transportations, the CTA, which is the Chicago Transit Authority, which is our main bus and subway train line, and then the Metro, which is the trains that go out to the outer suburbs. All of these purple dots indicate various mass transportation sites. So it's pretty centrally located to public transport. And then we're again close to Lake Michigan and other cultural, historical, and entertainment destinations within the city. This is Field Museum, Shedd Aquarium, the Planetarium, Soldier Field. That's all over here as well too. So that's just a quick glimpse of where we're at in the city. For the next several slides, I'm going to turn it over to the other David, who will talk specifically about the program. So David, take it away.
Thank you so much, David. The Cinema and Television Directing Graduate Program is a Master of Fine Art, MFA, and it's housed in the Cinema and Television Arts Department, which is a large department we have sort of boutique scaled graduate program in the context of a very large undergraduate program. So that part of what that means is that we're very well resourced in terms of equipment, facilities, faculty, and so forth. It's a 2-year program plus thesis. It's 56 credits in total, and it is only for full-time students. There is not a way to take the program as a part-time student.
Sorry, I was sending a chat to everyone saying welcome. There's the next slide.
So just some highlights about the program. It's a collaborative curriculum focused on storytelling. So the program focuses on collaboration from the beginning. As you're learning to be directors, directors work in collaboration with other artists and craftspeople, and learning how to work collaboratively is central from the curriculum from the beginning. The program focuses both on leadership and production skills. How do we make films, and how do we lead as we're making films? It's located within the vibrant Chicago film and television community. It has never been more exciting to be a filmmaker in Chicago than now. Really, in the last decade or so, there has been an absolute renaissance of film and television production in Chicago, and it is only growing. The number of television series that are being produced here, the number of feature films being made here, it's more and more year on year, and there's an enormous number of opportunities for students as a result of that, both when you're in school and after you have completed the program. We have professional industry standard facilities. We're going to talk about those facilities just in a minute, but just to point out that what you will be learning in both facilities, equipment, software, all of these sorts of things are very much state of the art, what's happening in the industry right now. Directors have the opportunities to explore other areas of filmmaking. The curriculum includes courses in cinematography, editing, sound, writing, producing, and so forth. And when you leave the program, you will have a solid portfolio of work that you have made and a strong network that you have been able to cultivate during your time.
As David mentioned, we'll go into some detail about some of those highlights. We'll start with the curriculum.
So I'm not going to go through sort of the details of every class, but I'll sort of talk through what each semester experience is like. So in your first semester, you take a series of classes that all interconnect with each other. So you're studying directing, screenwriting, constructing the images, both cinematography and also the visual design of the image, sound acquisition design, and editing theory and practices, obviously sound and editing. And all of those courses work together in the projects that you're making. So you direct a number of films and work on other films during the semester. You also, so right from the beginning, you're directing. And then you are also, out of your screenwriting class and your directing class, in fact, starting work developing projects that you'll be making in the spring. So when you go into the spring, so you make it a number of smaller projects in the fall. In the spring, you make one large project that you started in the fall. So the writing process, and in fact, even going as far as pre-production, you pitch those projects in the fall, and then in the spring you make them with your classmates as your crew. In addition to that, you start the ideation process on your thesis film. So you're taking a class where you're coming up with ideas for your thesis, writing. You pitch your thesis ideas to the graduate faculty to find thesis advisors. You're also studying producing, media financing, which helps both thinking in terms of how do you finance projects after you graduate out in the real world, but also how are you finding financing right now for your thesis film. So there's sort of, and you're also taking a cinema and television studies class. And then we move into the fall.
Oh, next year, sorry.
Yeah. So in the fall of your second year, I would say there's broadly two things happening. One is in the writing and directing the series, you're having a cohort-wide experience with episodic storytelling. So you're making a series together, a web series together, and experiencing how is that different from telling a standalone story in a film, just because the way the industry has changed and evolved. There's so much work happening in episodic, and it's so important that you have this kind of experience. At the same time, you are moving into your thesis experience. Some students, many students, make their thesis film during their second year. Some students, for various reasons, choose to make it in the third year, especially if they are, for example, returning to their home country and wanting to shoot it there. Or there's a lot of reasons why someone might make a film into their third year. But you are working on the pre-production, both creative and sort of the producing side of things, as well as developing a feature screenplay or a show Bible for a series. Then in the spring, you have the applied post-production class connects up with thesis projects, so that for those students who are making their thesis film in their second year, this is the class that it gets edited and finished through. In addition to that, you're taking a class on career management, which helps. How do you launch your career? What do you do? What are next steps now? You know, how do you work with agents and managers? How do you sort of handle portfolios and film festivals and sort of all of those next steps for you, as well as a class on marketing, distribution, and exhibition in terms of thinking about that side of the industry in terms of your work and sort of how it functions moving forward. All right.
Okay, that was a quick overview of the curriculum. We can talk more about that in question and answer if you all have questions. In this slide, I found there's value in sort of really talking about what directors do, since their cinema is a collaborative endeavor. So David, you want to talk about what directors actually do?
Sure. Yes. This is a program to educate you to become cinema and television directors. And obviously, there's a lot of components to what that means and skills that you're developing during that program. But the central goal is so that you know how to direct when you graduate. Directors are the creative center of the project. That is the function of the director. They're working with and supervising all department heads. And the program absolutely focuses on how does that work and how do you do that. Directors work closely with the actors in crafting the performance. Directors are responsible for the overall look and feel of the project. They must also have technical knowledge on how the project is made. Even if they are not the cinematographer, they need to understand what cinematographers are doing and how they're working in order to be able to direct the cinematographer or the production designer or the editor or whatever. So the program includes education in these areas. Even if you won't be doing those things after you graduate, it's important to understand how they work, think, communicate, and so forth. Fundamentally, a director is the general, right? They're the general leading the troops. You need to know where we're going and how to get everyone there. It's a collaborative, creative industry. So after you graduate, obviously the primary thing we're educating you to become are directors, but based on your experiences, the classes you've taken, the kind of projects you're working on, and the roles that you've served on those projects, we see students being able, after graduate, to move into not only directing, but also producing, writing, cinematography, editing, script supervising, and assistant directing. Those are all areas, and other areas, obviously, that you have experience on during your time at Columbia. You will work on a lot of projects and gain a lot of experiences.
Oh man, I'm jumping ahead. Sorry. Speaking of careers and what happens after graduation, let's talk a little bit about some recent-ish alumni of the cinema department.
Sure. So, well, I can start with Akanksha because that just happened. So, Akanksha Krasinski, who in fact is graduating this semester, so she's alumni adjacent. Let's say just won a Student Academy Award for her thesis film. So that's incredibly exciting when we're super proud of Akanksha. Wang Chung-Bei won a Student Academy Award for hers, I guess about a decade ago. we've had alums out of the cinema and television arts department working in all levels of the industry. We're particularly proud of, for example, Lena Waithe, who is an Emmy award-winning writer, actress, and producer on Dear White People, Bones. I mean, all of these different shows. We're very proud of our alumni. You will find that in Hollywood, there is a very much a deep network of Columbia alums who work together regularly.
Yeah, and these are obviously some of the flashier names of our alumni. That we have a long list of those who are working in the industry in various roles and positions.
So just to talk about our facilities a little bit, we are primarily in 2 buildings, although we do have some facilities in a third. Well, I'll just talk about 2 of those buildings. Because again, we're a big department, so we have a lot of facilities. The primary facilities for classroom space into offices is 1104 South Wabash. That's our main home. We take up pretty much the whole building. There's a variety of classrooms, equipment centers, sound production facilities, and advanced cameras, screening rooms, meeting spaces, editing, post-production suites, location of Film Row Cinema. So the top floor of the building is actually a cinema. Oh yeah, you can see it there. The different floors have different orientations. So, and it's more or less the process. So like the 3rd floor is like writing and producing, and then like the 5th floor is cinematography, and the 6th floor is post-production, the 7th floor is sound post-production. Like there's sort of orientations in terms of the facilities in this building, and it's all state-of-the-art stuff.
And this is the primary building that you're in day out in your time at Columbia, correct?
Most of the classroom space is here, and most, it depends on the particular class, but lots and lots of classes are.
Yeah. And then your secondary, if I'm not speaking out of turn, is the Media Production Center, correct?
Yes, so the MPC is our primary production space. So this is a space, and we have classrooms in it. But the primary intention of the space is this is the space where the work is happening. So we have, a number of sound stages. So it's 35,500 square feet. Actually, technically, there's 4 sound stages, although there's 2 main sound stages. Yeah, we should change that 2 to 4, actually.
Okay.
We have full fabrication facilities for production design. We have a motion capture studio with green screen. One of the equipment centers is in this space. So it's a pretty exciting space to work in.
Yeah, and it's one of our newer buildings on campus, really only eclipsed by the Student Center, which is, I'm going to talk about. This is another space, although not specific to cinema. It's another space that you can take advantage of as a student. So this is our main student center that's open to all students, regardless of their major or department. Within this space, there's a food court, there's coffee shops, there's study and meeting and collaborative spaces, plenty of rooms for you to reserve for those things. There's a DIY makers crafters space. There's a fitness center. The Career Center office is housed within the Student Center. There's plenty, again, practice and meeting spaces, like I said, that you can reserve. And then there's an exhibition hall. So this is just a little bit of a variety. If you're looking for space outside the cinema and television department, which has ample amount of space to begin with, this is above and beyond that. The next slide is talking about some funding options. Obviously, funding is one of the more important areas of consideration when you're thinking about going to graduate school. When you're talking about funding at Columbia, you're talking probably about scholarships, working on campus, working off campus, or federal loans. So on this slide, I'm going to focus a little bit on incoming student scholarships. And on the next slide, we'll talk about some continuing student scholarships. But for incoming student scholarships, all of you who apply on or before the deadline, which is January 14th, will be considered for what's called Graduate Merit Award scholarships. These are our incoming student scholarships. These are merit-based scholarships based on the overall merit and overall strength of your application materials. and they pay anywhere from 25% of your tuition, maybe upwards of 75% of your tuition. Again, based on your overall merit, there's no additional steps that you need to do to be considered for that scholarship other than submitting your application on or before January 14th. So not that you wouldn't already be trying to put your best materials forth for consideration, you should doubly be trying to put your best materials forth, because your application serves not only as an application for admission, but also an application for scholarship. A full listing of our scholarships are at colum.edu/scholarships. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some continuing student scholarships on the next slide. But some other ways in which students fund their education are through working while they're in school. Working on campus, all graduate students, whether they're international or domestic, can work a maximum of 20 hours a week on campus. An assistantship is a job that is working with the Cinema and Television Arts Department specifically. You're paid with a stipend, and this is a job that, similar to an incoming student scholarship, you're considered for an assistantship based on your overall merit, and these are assigned jobs at the time of admission. All other campus jobs will require a separate application from you, so you'll actually have to apply for other campus jobs. But in assistantships, you'll automatically be considered for again if you apply before the deadline. All of our campus jobs are listed on an internal job posting portal called Handshake, which you will gain access to only after you've been admitted and are enrolled. Working off campus, only domestic students, so only US citizens or permanent residents, can work off campus. If you're an international student, and this program does have a large number of international students each year, if you're an international student, you can only work on campus. But for those of you who can work off campus, our student employment portal Handshake will also list some off-campus jobs, and then your academic department and the Career Center will also likely know of other internships or other opportunities, some specifically related to your field. And then federal loans, for those of you who are US citizens or permanent residents, you should know what federal loans are. I only mention that because that is another funding option. You want to submit your FAFSA now, and then if you are admitted, you will receive an award letter that informs you of your loan eligibility. And just some continuing student scholarships. So these scholarships you can't apply to until at least your second semester. But some of these are, this is just to show you that there are scholarships out there beyond the front door that you can apply to later that can help defray the cost of attendance. Derek Dean Memorial Scholarship and Diana King Memorial Scholarships are open to people specifically within the Cinema and Television Arts Department. Those range in value, but they're in the thousands. The Dwight Follett is open to all graduate students, regardless of whether you're in the cinema department or not. And that is simply just to help defray the cost of attendance. The Lynn Rosenblum Professional Development Fund is open to all graduate students. This is for students who are looking to attend a professional conference, or I've even actually seen it even be used just for someone to go to like a film festival, which is essentially in a lot of ways your guys' conference. But again, these scholarship amounts vary and will all have separate application processes, but these are all examples of some scholarships that exist later down the line if you end up coming here. Some application requirements. So all directing applications require an application fee, a resume, 2 letters of recommendations, transcripts from every college or university you've attended, or a transcript evaluation if you went to a school outside of the United States, an essay, and a portfolio. And the portfolio for directing has 4 distinct parts: a creative portfolio, visualization project, case study, exercise, short film thesis statement. We don't have time to quite go into detail about all of them. We can certainly take questions in Q&A, but David, is there anything you want to talk about overall when it comes to the essay or the portfolio pieces?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing about all of it is we're trying to get a sense of who you are, where you are in your own creative development, how we can best serve you, all of those kinds of things. So the creative portfolio, obviously, seeing films that you've directed would be the biggest thing that we'd love to see there, but that's not the only thing that we consider. And we've certainly admitted students who hadn't directed films before if they have creative portfolio that indicates that they would be a good fit for that. The visualization project is asking you to tell a story with a beginning, middle, and end in 12 images. The big thing that I would say there is don't just pull shots from a scene from a movie and put those together. Like, we can tell that that's what you did. This is supposed to be a new, creative, original thing that you are doing. Even if you're making it out of existing images, tell something that is new and unique. It gives us a sense of who you are and how you think about visual storytelling. The case study exercise is an example of a film we want you to take a look at and critique, right? Just get a sense of how you think about films, sort of what your perspective is on what works, what doesn't work, that sort of thing. And then we want to get a sense of what kind of thesis film you're interested in making. So again, it's giving us some sense of who you are and your perspective on storytelling.
A good way to think about the portfolio is that the visualization project, the case study exercise, and the short film thesis statement, those are all exercises that all of you have to do. And then the creative portfolio is really your sort of carte blanche opportunity to submit anything above and beyond that you want to show your work as a creative. So there are multiple parts of the portfolio. We can talk more about that during question and answer if you have questions about that. All admissions or all application requirements are listed at colum.edu/gradadmissions. And again, international applicants may have additional steps to the application process. And again, I can talk more about that during Q&A. A quick overview of the timeline. I don't know what that red mark is, but a quick overview of the timeline is now between the priority deadline. You should be attending events like today, getting your questions answered about the program. You should start collecting your application materials, so start thinking about all the various parts of your portfolio and start working on those. You should be writing and rewriting your essay and getting feedback on that. You should be requesting your transcripts or your transcript evaluation or the letters of recommendation. You should start that process now, if not yesterday. And then the deadline is January 14th. So you'll want to submit your deadline on or before January 14th. No later than 8 weeks after the priority deadline. That's the latest that decisions will be released. And then the final deadline is April 15th. That's the deadline for you, if you are admitted, to tell us your decision. So we want to know by April 15th whether or not you're coming to Columbia next year if you happen to be admitted into the program. One last thing is, so additional final steps are to begin or continue. I know a lot of you have started your application already. Begin or continue your application by going to apply.colum.edu/apply. And I'm going to put a lot of these links in chat after we're done. And then take advantage of any admissions events coming up. A full listing of our events can be found at colum.edu/grad events. Next week, for example, I'm hosting a Q&A with the, I don't know why I keep hitting that button early. We're hosting a Q&A with the program, with the student ambassador who's in directing. So he couldn't join us today because he has a class conflict, but if you wanted to ask questions of a current student within the program, next week would be your opportunity to do so. I know a lot of you have signed up for that already, but if you want to talk to a student, that would be a student director, that would be an opportunity to do so next week. That's it. We're at the end of the presentation. We're going to I'm going to stop the recording, and we can turn on our cameras and we can start asking questions. As soon as my mouse starts cooperating. Stop recording.